welcome back. We're still at the Music Zoo.
We're still here.
We're still here.
They can't get rid of us.
So today, Craig, what are we doing?
We're doing Jackson's. This one's making its second appearance on one of our shows. Your original.
You've seen this guy, right? So this is my 1987 Jackson Soloist, beloved and treasured guitar of mine that I've had for, of course, since that time. We're going to put this up today against a brand new custom shop.
Yep.
Exclusive here to the Music Zoo.
That's right.
SL2H-V. V standing for vintage, right?
Yeah. So there are definite improvements that I could see. No offense, Joe. I know you love that thing. But we talked about in the previous episode. Yep. You knew exactly where I was going with that.
Yep.
The pickup selectors on this thing absolutely drive me insane. I could never ever. You know me with the pickups. We talked about it. I'm constantly changing.
Well, back in the 80s, Craig, you had to have a lot of switches.
You had to have the
knobs,
switches.
Styles. There were guitars
Stripes,
that had... There were guitars in the 80s. I'm not going to mention the manufacturer names, but there were guitars in the 80s where I was like, I could never own that guitar because I can't remember where all those... I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Even that. I mean, it's laid out pretty easily, but I would still have a tough time with the dance I would have to do with my fingers and changing things. When you're trying to play guitar, the last thing you want to do is finagle with the switches, right?
Right.
But you could just see right off the bat, there's such a difference in just the overall appearance of the guitars. Can't get too much more 80s with the the stripes everywhere, and it's all about the graphic on the guitar itself. And this is more just wood. Let the wood breathe. It's all about the tone. It still looks cool. It's nice. It's a beautiful guitar with the it shows the grain of the wood, and it's just really nicely done. The electronics are Hey, what's going on over here?
You guys still here?
We're still here.
Look at this. We got.
You guys shooting right now?
We're shooting, Tommy.
I was just vacuuming. Sorry.
So we have Tommy Coletti here, owner of the Music Zoo, joining us for this episode.
So Tommy, this is an exclusive to your shop, right? So tell us a little bit about this, how it came about, what's different about it.
Several years ago, I got with Mike Shannon at Jackson, and I had to ask him. I was like, hey, when you do custom guitars, when you're building custom guitars, soloists especially, what are like some of the top 5 or top 10 changes that people always have you make? And because I had my pet peeves with the Soloist, and we kind of went back and forth. And he gave me a small list of things, and I gave him my list of things that I was like, in a perfect world, like if I could change these, it would be great. And the big thing is what you guys, I guess, were just talking about.
Sure.
with the volume knob. Like I'd play, and like my pinky would just shut my guitar off. Like, and then what happens is if you're gigging with that guitar, then you come up with like this nervous. It's like a nervous tick because you keep like hitting your volume like to turn it on because you want to make sure that you're all the way up.
Yep.
And so I thought that was one of the things that needed to be addressed. Some of them are aesthetic, like this guitar is roasted mahogany. We have a whole thing with the roasted guitars right now because to me they're phenomenal. They sound a little brighter and a little bit more like just responsive.
They feel good.
They feel phenomenal. It feels great.
Yeah.
The mindset with the roasting is that so wood has hemicellulose, and it's basically the pores of the wood. And when you cook the wood, those pores empty out, like some of the glue or the cellulose empties out of the pores of the wood, and like on a really microscopic level, it makes the wood more like opened and like a vintage guitar. Like if people sweat 50s Les Pauls, but the wood on a 50s Les Paul or a Strat was probably taken from like a furniture factory in like the 20s. So you're talking about wood that's like it's old.
Yeah, sure.
So and it has a lot of the same characteristics when they look at like an old piece of wood and then they look at the roasted wood. It was very similar. So to me, it's just like they fast forward everything else, relicking, and so why don't we just fast forward the aging as well? Yeah. So that.
I noticed the headstock looks a little bit different, and you got a different logo on there.
The headstock is the Randy Rhoads headstock from his original V. So the white guitar with the pinstripes.
The first Jackson.
First Jackson was a narrower headstock. To me, it looked more aggressive, and the logo. I don't know, I'm a Randy fan, so like immediately when I see that logo, I think of Randy, and so I wanted to see if I could go back. So they gave us permission to use that logo, to use the headstock. The roasted wood, we do them with nitrocellulose as opposed to the poly, because the polyurethane finishes kind of like mute the wood a little bit and mute the resonance of the guitar.
Sure.
Other than that, it's just a shred machine.
Yeah,
Killer.
and yeah, it's great. And we featured this guitar in a previous episode, and we talked about, and we actually talked about at the beginning of this episode, is how electronically there's just things don't seem right, you know, compared to today's technology. Is the switching of the pickups, and how we just have a three-way simplified here. The volume knob is in a bit of a different spot,
Right.
a little more out of the way. And for me, I agree with you. When I'm playing live, the last thing I want to worry about is rolling off that volume.
Yep.
Because every time you catch a break and you're like, you hold out a chord, the first thing I'm doing is making sure I'm still on 10.
Right.
And more often than not, I'm
Yeah,
not.
it's like a nervous tick.
It's terrible.
It's like-
Sure.
yeah.
And it takes away from, you know, the vibe you're playing. You don't want
Right.
to, you know, and it becomes almost reactionary, right? It's just like I'm constantly fiddling
Sure.
with that volume.
Right. Sure, that's
So
what
this
helps.
is great. And you know, it aesthetically is way more modern looking than
Of course.
the 80s stuff. So.
And even though it's funny because you're calling it vintage, right? Because you have vintage appointments here.
Yep.
But yet it's more modern.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So you're getting the best of both.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is available exclusively here at the Music Zoo. You can't get it anywhere else.
Yep.
And for Jack, I don't know if I should say this on camera, but Jackson, there's a long wait for guitars. So part of the reason that we're doing it is when somebody comes to us with those changes for a custom guitar, it's like, you're going to have to wait a really long time for this guitar. But this, get all of that guesswork out of the
Yeah.
way, and here it is. This
So
is probably
it's-
all the things that
Yeah,
you
it's the
wanted
product of what people were looking for, and that's great.
Yeah.
And and I must be in that same pack because it's all the things that I talk about.
That's right.
That I like in a guitar
Yeah.
that I can't get in any guitar off the shelf. There's always something that's not exactly what I'd want. This one kind of hits on all those spots, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I love the guitar. I think it's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Also,
Nice job.
You got vacuuming to do?
He's gonna start cleaning. He's gonna do a little more cleaning.
And you guys got to leave soon.
Thanks for stopping by.
Let me check that thing out.
Yeah, check it out.
Tell you what, it feels great.
Yeah.
It feels great. It's the neck dimension is almost identical to this.
Yeah, it
You know,
feels the same.
minus all the lacquer and stuff.
Yep.
Killer.
Yeah. What's the back of that look like? How's the cutaway look compared to? Yeah, it's definitely.
Neck heel's a little
Yeah,
different.
They have a little bit more of a scoop there. Probably gives you a little better access up high. So.
But the roasted feel is killer, sounds killer, looks killer. Again, available only here at the Music Zoo.
Yeah.
Go check them out.
Check them out.
All right, guys.
Thanks for coming back and subscribe.
See you next time.
See ya.